first period of Roman history is the Etruscan period. What type of government did they have? A monarchy. In 509, they said no more kings. This is a system that doesn't work, and they established a new system of government which they made up, a system of checks and balances, a system of division of powers. What do we call that? A republic. So the second period of Roman history opens up with a new system of government called the republic. What's the period called? It's not a republic, for God's sake. 500 years, eventually collapsing after decades of civil war, someone coming in and saying, I promise you peace, but I want power. The third period of Roman history is known as the Imperial Rome, or the Empire. Bless you. What type of government do you have? You have a dictatorship, you have a monarchy. We good? What ended the Etruscan period? The revolution that led us to the establishment of the Republic. That's the Etruscan period. What events led to the collapse of the Republic? Civil wars leading to the battle at Actium, and someone saying, no more war, I want peace, but that requires total power. And people said, yes, sir. Who was murdered in the Senate in 44 BC? Julius Caesar. Why was he murdered? They feared he wanted to do what? Become a king and destroy the Republic. The battle at Actium, 31 BC. Discuss it. Who's involved? 3 people. Cleopatra, Mark Antony, and Octavian. Of those 3, who were fighting together? Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Who won? Octavian. What happened to Rome's government shortly after Actium? The collapse of the Republic. After decades of civil war, Octavian comes back to Rome, victorious, saying, no more civil war, I promise you, but I need power. And the Senate says, yes, sir, whatever you want. How many times in history have we seen that? We don't seem to learn it. Who was the first Roman emperor? Augustus. What was his real name? Octavian. What did he promise in exchange for power? Peace. Who ruled the Roman world at the time of the birth of Jesus? Augustus, who ruled from 27 BC before Christ to 14 AD upon his death. What does AD mean? Anno Domini. Never again will you say after death or already dead. What is the Pax Romana? Define that. Roman peace. Who began it? Augustus. How long did it last? 200 years. You're at a cocktail party and someone says, the Edict of Milan. I wonder what that is. You say, it is the legalization of Christianity by Emperor Constantine. I want a date. The date for the Edict of Milan. 313. I want a date for the fall of Rome. 476 AD. One of the most important dates in the history of the world. What is the major Roman contribution to the art of sculpture? In other words, I walk into a museum and I'm looking at sculptures. How do I know they're Roman? Realism. How is that different from the Egyptian and Greek statues that I just saw in the rooms? Those were tended to be idealized. Greek and Egyptian sculptors tended to idealize. The Romans were not so idealistic. They much preferred realism. What are the 3 major innovations of the Romans to architectural engineering? Arch, the dome, and concrete. Rome's most copied, most influential building. The Pantheon. What building influenced it? The Parthenon. What does the Pantheon have that the Parthenon does not have? A dome, arch, and concrete. Good. Judeo-Christian. What does that mean? Jewish and Christian. If I say to you, give me, in my hand, give me the most famous Judeo-Christian, another person who will get an F on the test because he didn't get the music. Give me the most famous Judeo-Christian book in the world. Put it in my hand. What book would you give me? The Bible. Holy Trinity, Jewish or Christian? Christian. How many gods? Be careful. How many gods? Be careful. 1 God. How many aspects? 3. Sacred. What does it mean? Religious. Secular. What does it mean? It means non-religious. Of those 2, 99.9% of all important buildings, sculptures, paintings, literature, philosophy. Where am I? Will it be sacred or secular in the Middle Ages? Sacred. Why? Because the church is the dominant force. Pope Gregory, sitting at his desk in his office, gets a message from who? God, telling him to do what? Unite the world through music. Gregorian chant. What are neumes? Musical notation. Did you see it on the test? Would you recognize those little squiggly things? Yep. Monophony. How many melodies? One. Polyphony. How many? A cappella. What does it literally mean? In the church, how do we use it? Voices only. AD, Anno Domini, BC, little English translation of Ante Christum Natum, before Jesus was born. Make sure to know those three quotes by Jesus. What ideas shaped and dominated medieval Europe? Christianity. Why is this so? Because upon the fall of the government of Rome, Christianity, which had been legalized and spread by Rome, was the dominant force. There is no unifying government, but there is a unifying religious belief system, which becomes the dominant force in medieval Europe. What are the approximate dates of the Middle Ages? 476, 1400. What brought on the Middle Ages? The fall of Rome. I want to date. 476. What institution emerged as a dominant force? The Christian Church. What was the most powerful patron of medieval art, sculpture? The Christian Church. What is the most common subject of medieval painting, sculpture, music, literature, philosophy? Christian Church. How did medieval sculpture serve as a didactic tool? What does didactic mean? To teach. Why did the church need art? To teach. Because people couldn't read or write. How is the ancient Greco-Roman world? You remember when I showed you some churches built during the Middle Ages. How did we see the ancient Greco-Roman world still alive in them? Arch, dome, post-lintel, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian capitals, and pediment. Never mind about Romanesque, we didn't do it. Never mind about knowing Giotto's paintings. We looked at them, but I didn't trust them. What pope is given credit for unifying the music of the medieval church? Pope Gregory. Judeo-Christian. Patron. What's a patron? Someone who does what? Hires, pays. Commission is the transaction between the patron and the artist. Sacred, secular, Holy Trinity, Monophony, Polyphony, a cappella, neumes, didactic, Pope Gregory, Gregorian chant. Know those three quotes. I think the meat of the second test is the Renaissance. So, in Renaissance in the 1400s, there is a rebirth in Europe. This rebirth was due to the education, the new awareness of the magnificent artistic and philosophical achievements of the ancient Greco-Roman world. The ideas are to revive the ancient greatness, mix it with Judeo-Christian ideas, and produce a tremendous humanism. We must build a new Athens. We must rebuild Rome. Out of the thick medieval night, our eyes are open to the glorious touch of the sun. Here you have a Renaissance philosopher using the sun, the light, as a symbol for the truth, for knowledge, for enlightenment. Was there a whole period in history that we would use the idea of light as a symbol? What's that called? Age of Enlightenment. The age of what? Reason, or the neoclassical period. What are the dates for that? 1700s. Make sure you know Pico, and it seems to me that you do know him very well. Ficino. Renaissance, what does it mean? Rebirth, I want dates. 1400, 1600, I want a place. Florence, Italy, I want the two civilizations that are most strongly influencing everything in the Renaissance. Greece and Rome. Thank you, Greece. Thank you, Rome. A couple of people have been asking me about this. What are the three most common subjects of Renaissance art? Number one, Greco-Roman anything. Greco-Roman mythology, Greco-Roman history. Guys, give me an example of one work of art that you know is on a Greco-Roman subject, either mythology or history. Not David. David's biblical. The Birth of Venus. What else? Primavera. What else? Well, that's Baroque. Madonna of the Rocks is religious. The School of Athens. Very good. Who's in the School of Athens? Plato and Aristotle. The second subject is Judeo-Christian anything. Stories from the Bible. Give me an example of that. The Last Supper. Give me another one. The Sistine Chapel is the creation from Genesis. The Madonna of the Rocks. Moses, David. Very good. Okay? And the third one are portraits of wealthy people. I have nothing to do with Greece and Rome. I have nothing to do with the church. I have money. I want a painting of myself. Or a sculpture of myself. As an example, you would say Cecilia Gallerani, Mona Lisa. Secular portraits. And Ludovico Sforza commissioning things, absolutely. Who adopted the young Michelangelo? Medici family. Thank you, the Medici family, for doing that. How is humanism, a couple of people have been asking me this, how is humanism reflected in many works of Renaissance, bless you, Renaissance art philosophy? In other words, first of all, you have to know what humanism is. Listen. A couple of people have been asking me, what is humanism? That's stabbing me in the heart. After 3.5 months, what is humanism? Human beings are to be admired. Human beings are awesome. It's a philosophy. It's a way of looking at human beings that says human beings are great. I would say the most humanistic of anything we've seen is Pico della Mirandola. Yeah? Philosophy. I would say that the birth of Venus is very humanistic. The birth of the Primavera is very humanistic. Michelangelo's David is very humanistic, showing human beings as beautiful, wonderful, awesome. Michelangelo was attracted to Plato's theory of ideas. How did that affect his work as a sculptor? What did he believe once he saw the rock? The idea was already there, and then there, all he needs to do is reveal it, right? Aesthetics, the study of beauty. How are the aesthetics of the Renaissance similar to those of the Greek Golden Age? Renaissance aesthetics tend to be more Apollonian. They tend to be more calm, more simple, more logical, not emotional and dramatic and Hellenistic. Is that correct? The birth of Venus. Here we go. 1, ready, go. Artist. Botticelli, patron. Medici, story. The birth of Venus, for God's sakes. Primavera, artist. Botticelli, patron. Medici family. The subject, story. Love. Cecilia Gallerani, artist. Leonardo da Vinci, patron. Ludovico Sforza. Last Supper, artist. Leonardo da Vinci, patron. Ludovico Sforza, why? As a gift to the church. Story, Jesus' Last Supper. Madonna of the Rocks, artist. Leonardo da Vinci, subject. Who's the lady in the picture? Virgin Mary, baby Jesus, a little baby John the Baptist, and an angel. The School of Athens, one of the greatest images in the history of the world. I wish we could have a new School of Athens. Who's the artist? Raphael. Who's the patron who commissioned it? Pope Julius II. Today, where do I go to see it? To the Vatican. And what technique did Raphael use? Fresco. What does fresco mean? Painting on wet plaster. Sistine Chapel ceiling, one of the greatest things in the history of the world. Who painted it? Michelangelo. Who commissioned it? Pope Julius II. Where is it? In the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican. What technique? Fresco. What's the story? The first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis. By the way, did Michelangelo want to do it? No. But he had to do it, because that's what artists were. They were servants. Until Beethoven came along and said, How awesome. Pietà, artist. Michelangelo, location, don't worry about it. It is in St. Peter's in the Vatican. The subject matter is Mary holding the dead Jesus. That is what every Pietà is. David, who's the artist? Michelangelo. Who commissioned it? The city of the government of the city of Florence. What's the subject matter? David and Goliath from the Bible. Is Goliath present? Is David acting? He's not acting. He's thinking. Just like in the Renaissance. Logic and reason, not action. Bernini's David is acting. Moses, who's the artist? Michelangelo. Who commissioned it? Pope Julius II. For what? For his tomb. The subject is Moses receiving the 10 Commandments, having received the 10 Commandments from God. Cite several Greco-Roman architectural elements in Renaissance buildings. By the way, the same thing we said in the medieval period. The same thing we will say in the Baroque and in the neoclassical period and in the 1800s and everything up until the 20th century when it all collapses. So, Palladian, what does that mean? Greco-Roman, whose name is being referenced? Palladio. Who copied the buildings and the books of an ancient architect by the name of Vitruvius and designed, this guy, Palladio, designed an incredibly famous building. What's that? Villa Rotonda. The Medici Chapel, who's the architect? Michelangelo. Who's the patron, for God's sake? The Medici family. For what? For their tombs, the Medici tombs. The Villa Rotonda, Palladio. The influences. Greco-Roman. Give me 2 buildings specifically. Parthenon, Pantheon. And the Villa Rotonda is the most influential building in the last 500 years to this day. St. Peter's Cathedral in the Vatican in Rome. During the Renaissance, somebody said, knock down that old church and build a new one. Who was that? Pope Julius II. Who is the architect who's given credit for the dome? Michelangelo. What's a mass? Sacred or secular? Sacred. It's the music of the Roman Catholic Church. What are madrigals? Secular songs. Is there any?